Right. I think we're probably good to get started. We all agree. Good to go.
Yeah, works for
All right.
me.
Perfect. Perfect. So, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we look to improve security and modernize networking with SD-WAN. This is the breakaway from legacy webinar with Granite Government Solutions, Fortinet Federal, and us, your host for Inc. My name is Dave Tong, and I'm the Senior Director here at Fort. A couple of quick housekeeping notes. The presentation is being recorded, and Tricia, we will have that out to folks later on this afternoon, tomorrow, later on in the week. Imagine it would be sometime shortly hereafter. Please hold all questions until the end, or there is a Q&A box down at the bottom next to a couple of the other icons down there. You can certainly put things in there. We'll be monitoring that. Briefly, just a little bit about 4Inc. We are a public sector distributor. Founded in 2006 as an 8A, we rose through the ranks and became the #1 8A small business in 2016, 17, and 18, when ultimately we graduated from that program. Initially for specialized in creative financing for public sector, and over those 16 years have financed over $4 billion to the government. Currently, Ford is number 71 on the Washington Technology Top 100 government contractors list. And what really Ford does and provides to the government is access to cutting edge technology through a variety of contract vehicles, partners, and socioeconomic business statuses. As our tagline says there at the top, we get it done or we get IT done. Either way you want to look at it, we get it done through various resources. What I'd like to do now is turn it over to Brendan Devane with Granite Government Solutions. And Brendan, all yours.
All right, appreciate the intro. Hi, everyone. My name is Brendan Devane, Federal Account Executive here at Granite Telecommunications. I've been with Granite for a little over 2 years now. I cover a few of our large civilian agencies, including the Department of Health and Human Services. For those who are not familiar with Granite, I'll be providing a high-level overview of who we are, what we do, and our core competencies. Next slide, please. Yeah, so Granite Telecommunications, we're the largest private telecom company in North America. We specialize in voice, data, and network services for multi-location businesses and government agencies. We were founded in 2002. We're growing into a $1.8 billion company, serving 86% of the Fortune 100 and over 70 federal agencies. Next slide, please. Yeah, so here's just a look at a handful of the agencies we are currently supporting. Also work with every major branch in the DoD. We have numerous contract vehicles, including GSA's EIS, so we make it easy for agencies to acquire services quickly and compliantly, work closely with federal IT leaders, contracting officers, and program managers to deliver cost savings, enhance security, and modernize telecom infrastructure. Next slide, please. So what sets Granite apart is our ability to simplify complex telecom environments. Instead of managing multiple vendors and invoices across different locations, customers get a single provider, one bill, and dedicated support. This helps drive cost savings, operational efficiency, and improve network performance. Our portfolio includes managed voice, SD-WAN, wireless, data, and network solutions. One of the larger civilian agencies we work with, they had an MPLS network that was expensive, had limited scalability, and couldn't support some of their harder to service locations. By partnering with Fortinet, we were able to roll out a fully managed SD-WAN solution across their 17,000 locations. This is the largest successful SD-WAN deployment in telecom history. Touch on that more in a bit. Next slide, please. So beyond business, Granite is also known for its strong philanthropic efforts. We raised over $500 million for cancer research and giving back to the communities it serves. At the core, Granite is not just a service provider. We're more of a strategic partner for federal agencies looking to modernize their telecom infrastructure. With that, I'm going to pass it over to my solutions engineer, Larry Cordio. And next slide, too. Thank you.
Sure. Any questions so far? I just want to make sure we can make this as interactive as possible.
I see nothing in the chat.
Okay, great. So hello, everyone. My name is Larry Cody. I'm a solutions architect here at Granite. And like what was spoken previously, we are a carrier that can support any of your technical needs from a wide area access. Is it commercial based internet? Is it broadband services? Is it telephony services? Granite can support those. We all are pretty familiar with legacy MPLS networks. They were very rigid, very secure, but they are also very expensive. So what we started to do about 10 years ago, the organizations like Fortinet started to deploy these SD-WAN technologies where we can utilize any type of access circuit. It could be a broadband circuit, a dedicated commercial internet circuit. It could be cellular or even Starlink today. And we will tie those into an SD-WAN appliance, which in turn will allow all of your locations to communicate either from branch to branch or branch to data center or branch to host site in a secured fashion, but utilizing the higher bandwidth, lower cost services. So we're well positioned to provide those types of things in SD-WAN solutions. We do tens of thousands of endpoints with Fortinet every year. There are other manufacturers, but we lean on Fortinet a lot. They're a strong, strong company, and they're a great partner for us. But if you do have another manufacturer that you're destined for, I have to have Cisco for some reason, we certainly would talk to you about that also. So at the end of the day, the SD-WAN architecture is really going to be about agencies that want networks that are less expensive, more resilient, easier to deploy, and easier to manage near and far. Okay, go ahead and change the slide. So again, just summarizing some of those things we just spoke about, ease of management. In an SD-WAN environment, you're going to have a managed service provider, someone who can support your infrastructure 7x24, 365. In the case of Granite, we are CONUS. We are operating only in the United States. And anybody who is in our NOC center working on our services is a Granite W-2 employee. Okay. So again, the ease of management, the monitoring, how we support our end user customers. Underlying access. It could be anything again from commercial-based internet to broadband, Comcast Spectrum type services to LTE to, again, we could even add Starlink to this list now. SD-WAN allows you to grow in a simplified manner. As you add a location or even retract a location, we bring on that other end branch remote. We bring in the connection points. We deploy that SD-WAN FortiGate type appliance, and we can tie them into your existing network very easily. And of course, it's all going to come at a lower cost. At the end of the day, we all know that this is really what everything is about: ease of management, better access solutions, simplified growth while saving you money. Okay, next slide, please. These are some of the organizations that we do support for SD-WAN. Some of these locations have hundreds, and some of them can have thousands and thousands of remote locations. Granite is servicing every single one of these customers and many, many more in an SD-WAN flavor of solution. Go ahead. So again, talking a little bit about the different access types. Obviously, Granite would be your point of contact. Granite would be your provider of services. If you had ever had a challenge with a service, if a service wasn't working properly, you're only going to communicate with Granite. We're going to handle everything on your behalf. That could be dedicated internet or point-to-point circuits or wireless, MPLS, DSL cable, etc. And again, we are now connected with satellite services, either microwave, site-to-site type satellite, or obviously low orbit or satellite similar to a Starlink type of product. Next page. Brendan, you want me to keep going? I wasn't sure if I was on this slide. So
Yeah, all you.
I'll keep going. Absolutely. So Granite actually owns and supports some of our own products also. Our Epic product is a POTS replacement product. We all know that POTS lines are getting very, very expensive. The incumbent carriers do not want to service them anymore. There's no SLA to getting them repaired, but there are absolutely still devices out there that require that legacy 90-volt analog signal that's always there, always active, such as fire alarms, security, elevators, other types of appliances or end user devices that have to have dial tone no matter what, including a power failure. Granite owns and operates Epic. We hold the patents for Epic, and we can deliver to you 90-volt analog ring voltage that is certified with fire protection, security, elevators, fax machines, alarm panels, etc. Through our Epic product. And we call that a POTS alternative to that traditional analog line that I had in my house growing up as a kid, or you certainly have in some of your different organizations. Okay, next slide, please. So Granite is a customer service type company. We don't have bucket trucks in the street. We are a partner with the major providers. So what is really a lot of the value add is we are that individual resource. We are that point of contact for our customers. If they're in a Comcast footprint or a Spectrum footprint or a Cox Cables footprint, it doesn't matter to our customers. They're a Granite customer, and we're going to support everything on their behalf. We've invested about $26 million in the past 2 years on portals or tools that our customers would have access to make their lives easier, such as Tech Express. So if we wanted to dispatch a technician to your site, you can log into the portal. You can say, I want a technician on Wednesday. He needs to run a category 6 cable for a paging speaker. You put all that information in, we're going to tell you what that's going to cost, and then that technician is going to show up on that day at that time and do that work that you requested. That's what we call our Tech Express, kind of like an Uber for technicians. NOC Express is where we would handle all of our trouble ticketing. So all of our services are monitored and managed. If there was a trouble ticket that opened because we saw latency, packet loss, jitter on a service, our NOC Express platform will automatically open tickets, automatically notify you based on your requirements. If you want to be woken up at 2 a.m. on a Saturday night, we'll wake you up at 2 a.m. on Saturday night. Or you might say, don't call me till Monday. The NOC Express is our management portal for trouble ticketing. It's interactive. You can log into this portal and you can give us updates. Oh, telephone pole just went down, drunk driver, stand down on any dispatches until the telephone pole is repaired. Your NOC Express category here will allow you to interactively speak with us, talk with us about restoring your service. And Access Express is if you wanted us to install a new service, you can log into Access Express. You could put in your address, 1-800 Main Street, Boston, Massachusetts. And we're going to tell you what's available at that address. Do you want a dedicated internet service? Do you want a Comcast fiber service? Do you want traditional broadband? Access Express allows our customers to pump in an address and see what type of services are available at that location and what the costs of those services would be. Is it a gigabit circuit? It's going to be X amount of dollars. Is it a 10 gigabit circuit? It's going to be more X amount of dollars, but you'll be able to see that. And I'm not sure this group can do it because of contract reasons, but most of our customers can hit order or buy and actually place the order on the service. Again, this group is a little bit different in how we handle those contracts, but a traditional customer could actually order the circuit just by clicking the button. Any questions so far?
I see nothing in the chat box.
Good. Next slide, please. So I think we're going to swing it over to the Fortinet folks.
All right. Thanks so much, Larry. I appreciate it. My name is Phil Moser. I'm the Director of Civilian Sales for the Sales for all civilian agencies within Fortinet Federal. I've been at Fortinet about 6 years, actually 6 years on April Fool's Day. So I'll always remember it's a very memorable day to join the company. Anyways, it's been a terrific ride here at Fortinet. Very glad to be here. And also glad to be able to participate with Granite in this webinar. Granite's been a tremendous partner of ours. As has already been mentioned, we probably have one of the largest SD-WAN deployments jointly that we've partnered with Granite, probably in the US. I'm not sure if it's everywhere in the world, but it runs about 15,000 sites, SD-WAN deployed, moving off of MPLS into broadband circuits. Tremendous cost savings for that customer. And we've been with Granite the whole way, hand in glove. So we really appreciate Granite's partnership and continued reliability and partnership with us. So for those of you that don't know Fortinet, real quick, we are a top 3 global cybersecurity manufacturing company. We do have a global presence. Myself, Nicholas Ballister, who is my engineering colleague, who is going to go into a little more depth on the technology. We are all, and some of the others on the phone here, we are all from Fortinet Federal, so we're 100% dedicated to supporting the federal government customers. We do not have any direct contracts with government agencies. Everything we do is in partnership either with the carriers like Granite, with value-added resellers that have access to SOUP contracts or CIO-SP3, or any of the large systems integrators. And then we're the equipment manufacturer that stands behind that and delivers the technology. So that's a bit of us. I wanted to, next slide, please. I wanted to just spend a little bit of time, I guess, summarizing a lot of these topics have already been talked about, of why SD-WAN is important for healthcare agencies and the healthcare environment. And again, Larry and Brendan and others have already touched on some of these, so I'll just kind of go over them fairly quickly. But at the top of the list right now is probably lower cost. I mean, we all been watching the news. We all know that there are significant budget cuts coming. And really the migration to SD-WAN off of MPLS or more traditional circuit-based telecom solutions can dramatically lower the cost for an agency and allow it to spend money on patients, on research, on core missions, and not as much on the back end infrastructure. So the costs are going to come from circuit cost. It's going to come from lower product costs. It's going to come from convergence of products that Nicholas is going to talk about here in a second, ongoing licensing and maintenance, and also support costs. The way to look at this is migration to SD-WAN is going to lead to compounding cost savings and cost values. We'd love to talk with you about it if it's something that's of interest to you. Secondly, which is really unique for Fortinet, we combine, this is a theme you're going to hear throughout the next few minutes, we combine networking and SD-WAN with our next generation firewall. So we provide an advanced level of up to layer 7 cybersecurity through our SD-WAN at the very edge of the network, or it can be at an exchange point. But we uniquely combined best-in-class SD-WAN with best-in-class cybersecurity, probably in a way that nobody else does. And again, Nicholas is going to talk to that in a little more depth. Larry already addressed some of the flexibility of being able to access multiple types of WAN connections. This is super important, especially for mobile applications, remote applications, branch offices, where MPLS or traditional circuits may be either expensive or hard to get to. We offer multiple types of WAN connections. And the last thing I'll just mention here is reliability and resiliency, which in the healthcare arena is super important. We all know that as unfortunate as it is, the bad guys in the cyber world are targeting healthcare. I don't know how many times we've heard about ransomware attacks on hospitals, for example, or clinics. Research institutions are probably next. So the ability to combine security and networking is especially important in the hospital and in the clinics. One thing I'll just mention on the advanced cyber protection side of the house, a Fortinet secure SD-WAN solution is especially ideal and useful for a migration to TIC 3.0, which is a very unique federal transition from large centralized MTIC stacks. So because we combine security and networking at the edge of the network, it makes for a very, very nice transition to TIC 3.0 and direct internet access with all of the control points that go along with it and are required by CISA and others. So that's a summary. Let's just go on for a second here. I got a couple more slides. I don't have a lot of slides on Fortinet as a company, but I do want to highlight where we stand in the market. We're pretty proud of these two Gartner Magic Quadrants. It's a little bit hard to see, I guess, here. But in both the Magic Quadrant, the Gartner Magic Quadrant for SD-WAN and the Gartner Magic Quadrant for network firewalls, and by the way, that's from 2022, but that's the latest Magic Quadrant for network firewalls. We expect a new one out shortly. But in both of those studies and reports, Fortinet came out at the very tippy top of the Gartner Magic Quadrant Leaders Quadrant. That's impressive in itself, and we're pretty proud of that. But what I want to really highlight is that those ratings were all based upon the same product, our next generation firewall, with the same OS, the same management, which speaks to the convergence that Fortinet brings into this marketplace. So again, the SD-WAN network firewalls, we're leaders in both of those spaces, and we are leading based upon the same product and the same operating system. Next slide. All right, so what is the value of the Fortinet SD-WAN, or what we call secure SD-WAN? In short, if there's one word you're going to probably take out of here, and you're going to hear it a lot in terms of the technology behind what Granite is doing, is convergence. We consolidate and bring convergence across 3 or 4 different technology sections or sectors and streams. So in one product or one platform, the FortiGate, we provide advanced routing, we provide SD-WAN, we provide a next generation firewall, and we provide zero trust network access. One product, one OS, one management, all in the consolidated edge device. That device can be either hardware on-prem, or it can be a virtual device, as Nicholas will get into in a second. Tremendous cost savings, tremendous flexibility, tremendous value that can be brought to the edge of the network. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Nicholas.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nicholas Ballister. I've been with Fortinet Federal for about 2 years now. I have extensive experience working in federal environments as a network architect and network engineer. So pretty familiar with operational and design, concepts. Today, as Phil talked about, the convergence is really important for the Fortinet secure SD-WAN solution, the secure part being most paramount, because for true SD-WAN, you need it to be secure as well, right? If you're going to be allowing direct internet access or any of those other, breakout technologies and designs, you're going to need to have a secure solution for that. So if we look at, traditional enterprise networking, we have routers, switches, wireless, and, that's all fine and dandy. But for true next gen networks, we're also going to need to top on security services with that, right? Because of the extensive threat service, like the threat attack surface is growing. We have, new branch offices, we have remote users all over the place, we have users working from home now. So we need to combine security services on top of our existing network architecture. And, some of the benefits we can realize from that is if we combine a security solution and a network solution into one, we can reduce the complexity of our network design along with cost savings, troubleshooting. The network isn't as complex, so it's easier for our engineers to troubleshoot, which is really saving us, an immense amount of time and service restoration as well, which increases user satisfaction and business output. So next slide, please. So what exactly is, Fortinet Secure SD-WAN? So Fortinet Secure SD-WAN is not a specific product. It's not a separate product. You don't have to buy additional servers to get it running. It's simply a feature within the FortiGate system that allows you to choose the best path for your application while applying quality of service and next-gen firewall security policies. So for example, this is something that I could give you a FortiGate today and you could just turn on SD-WAN and start, processing your traffic in the most efficient way possible across the most efficient WAN link. We have extensive support for low or zero touch provisioning so that we can push out sites faster with templatized configs and making sure that we have a homogenized configuration across our architecture. For best path selection, we have multiple ways to select which path we want to use for our traffic and create rules to control that traffic. We also have a large database that allows us to classify which traffic we'd like to use within the rules for L7 services, for example. I believe there's over 5,000 applications in our database, and you can also create your custom signatures for that. We have traditional networking, like applying quality of service, marking and tagging your packets. You can do that as well. For the security overlay, you're typically familiar with IPsec tunnels. Our solution has purpose-built ASICs that will help accelerate that for better performance as compared to a traditional router, right? Other SD-WAN solutions may push a router and try to do security functionality on that, and that may, I mean, that's going to significantly hamper the actual throughput of the device compared to a firewall with an ASIC that's actually processing that traffic. So that's, that's one benefit of that as well. And then obviously the next gen firewall security features that you can add on to this inherently, right? It's inherently secure. You have multiple different security policies you can apply to your traffic. Any questions? I don't see any in the chat. Okay. So this is an example of, our SD-WAN system. So what I like to say is there's three concepts to it, right? There's the SD-WAN zones, which are going to be your logical groupings of interfaces. And you can do this based on underlay, overlay. It doesn't really matter. And then you have your SD-WAN rules. This is where you're actually programming your logic into the FortiGate. So for example, I have one of these rules called enterprise internet, right? And it's saying that all my clients that I have on that router on the LAN side, destined for Google services, based on the latency, it's going to use the internet via enterprise service level agreement, an IP SLA that we configure. It's basically a health tracker of that service, right? So you can create these rules and steer your traffic in a multitude of different ways, whether it be L7 or L3 services. There's also user groups that you can create. In one example, I'm actually using a BGP tag, so advanced routing tags in communities. You can use that to steer traffic as well. So it's highly extensible. And there's multiple different steering options, and we can get into that a little bit later. You can also do load balancing across different links, and there's multiple algorithms we can utilize to forward that traffic in the most efficient way possible. Another mainstay of the Fortinet Secure SD-WAN solution is the SLAs, right? So the SLA is what's actually going to be tracking the health of whatever service or server we want to track to then influence that within the SD-WAN rule. And there's really two main ways that this can happen. There's active probing and then there's passive probing. So active probing is going to be actually when the FortiGate itself is actively trying to reach out to that service and acquire health statistics, whether that be latency, jitter, or packet loss. And then within those SLAs, you can define what sort of service level agreement you're looking for, whether you want to fail the link over at 10% packet loss or 1%. It's really up to the engineer and administrator to decide. But then there's also a way to do it with certain applications where you can passively monitor and see via the actual application protocol what those statistics are. So it's very, very extensible and very robust, but also simple at the same time for engineers to actually learn these features. Next slide, please. So just here's a very high level architecture overview. You'll notice one thing different about the Fortinet Secure SD-WAN solution compared to other vendors is that we don't have a centralized controller, so to speak, right? So we have typically how this is built out, we have our management solutions, right? FortiAnalyzer and FortiManager. Our FortiAnalyzer system, that's mainly based around the logging. So that's acquiring logs, potentially even forcing your logs to be resilient and using a TCP protocol so that you're not missing logs. If one of your sites goes down, you'd like to retain that. FortiManager is going to be our management platform where we are actually going to be able to push templatized policy and do low touch provisioning on so that we can ensure that we have a homogenized configuration across our architecture. Both of these solutions have extensive API access, automation, built-in connectors to other applications such as ServiceNow, very tight integrations with other vendors in terms of homogenizing and consolidating and moving over to the Fortinet Secure SD-WAN solution without interrupting current architecture designs. And then obviously, you have monitoring dashboards, and you can create reports from these, and we'll get to that later in some of the slides. Not only are the management solutions powered by our FortiGuard Labs, which is basically our threat intelligence feeds that we have, the FortiGate itself is powered by that, so they can get the threat feeds, all the latest updates, security vulnerabilities, and all that information to enhance your security services such as IPS, IDS, AV, right? So we have all that threat intelligence coming into our endpoint, the FortiGate, which is then also powered by our security processing ASIC that I mentioned earlier. That's going to give you the increased throughput for a lower cost. Some of the FortiGate itself, again, that's our next gen firewall. You can pair this. If you were to start out today with just a FortiGate, you don't even have to technically implement SD-WAN yet. You could actually integrate the FortiGate into an existing legacy architecture and then tack on SD-WAN as time goes on, or you want to become more comfortable with it. So it's an easy grow into solution, or it could also be used as a greenfield solution. We also have some additional services and devices that we offer, such as the FortiExtender, which will allow us to actually activate, wireless WAN architectures, such as 4G, 3G, 5G LTE, right? We can bring that in and connect that into FortiGate, and the FortiGate itself can then become the single pane of glass to actually manage these devices. The FortiManager also is the single pane of glass. So you could manage all these under the FortiManager, but if you didn't have one of them, you could also, just manage it from the FortiGate as well, which is pretty neat. Then we also have the FortiAP and FortiSwitch for our LAN solutions, right? And those can also be managed by the FortiGate, and we'll talk about that in the next couple of slides via a protocol we have called FortiLink, and that just consolidates the administrative overhead and burden of configuring those devices individually. One important thing about the Fortinet Secure SD-WAN solution, it's transport agnostic, right? So it doesn't matter if you have private MPLS circuits, it doesn't matter if you have direct internet access, broadband, 4G, 5G, LTE, it doesn't matter. We can support all those with our SD-WAN solution. It doesn't matter from the FortiGate perspective. So very extensible in that circumstance. Some of the SD-WAN services that are offered, obviously, we have the security services by creating the IPsec overlays that are enhanced by the ASIC. We support advanced routing. So typically you would see, some sort of protocol such as BGP implemented within these architectures, and then, WAN path control and remediation. Obviously, the whole point of SD-WAN is to be able to choose the best path, right? So that's pretty much a given. And then WAN remediation, we actually support, packet correction, such as forward error correction, and even packet duplication for highly sensitive or critical services. Next slide, please. All right. So here's just a high-level overview of some of the, secure SD-WAN features that are available, right? So as I mentioned earlier, I have over 5,000 applications able to be used to steer traffic. We have multiple different SLA types. You could even, for VoIP, you could create an MOS type SLA to track the VoIP quality. Packet-based steering, you can have multiple different, load balancing algorithms so that, per packet, you could do different hashing algorithms, and you can do those within your SD-WAN rules. For the WAN resiliency, like I kind of mentioned, we have the packet error correction, forward error correction, which will allow you to actually account for packet loss across a WAN link, and then packet duplication for, really critical services that may need to send the packet down multiple different links, because you just can't afford to lose that data. So, those are some interesting features that are included at no additional cost as well, because remember, the SD-WAN system is already built into the FortiGate. So you're not paying extra for that. You don't have to set up extra servers. You can turn it on whenever you wish. Some other interesting features, we have IPsec bandwidth aggregation. So you can actually aggregate multiple IPsec links and utilize those in a load balance algorithm. And then obviously HA, right? If you're designing a secure SD-WAN solution, you could have multiple different hubs to fail over. You could have other hubs to have specific preferences. But this is not specifically a hub and spoke architecture. We have solutions that allow the spokes to create dynamic communication tunnels between them, which also increases resiliency. And then for our management platform, right? So the FortiAnalyzer, FortiManager, that's going to be our single pane of glass for our NOC and SOC teams to, review logs, push configurations, deploy new sites, manage the network infrastructure, ensure that it's properly running, and then also provide reports on that. And then the FortiAnalyzer, right? So this is where we're getting our real-time analytics and visibility. We can produce reports, provide those to management and executive leadership to make decisions on potentially upgrading circuits or, moving the architecture forward. And then I've already mentioned, low touch provisioning, that's included in the FortiManager as well. You're able to do that. Next slide, please. All right. So I know I mentioned a lot about the FortiGate and we haven't quite touched on it yet as much as I'd like. So to kind of just give you a high level overview of the FortiGate solution, right? So it's a hybrid mesh firewall. It's a next gen firewall. It has all the security bells and whistles that you could imagine, multiple different form factors, right? So you could do small, medium, large, branch, campus, data center, however you wish. You could do VMs, cloud native firewall, firewall as a service. I mean, we support pretty much any form factor you can imagine of the FortiGate, right? And this has built-in ASIC, obviously, besides the virtual machine, which has a proprietary mini accelerator, I guess you will, right, for the VM solution. FortiLink, as I mentioned earlier, about managing the Forti APs and Forti switches and the Forti extenders. FortiLink is the proprietary protocol that you can use to manage those devices and deploy them and manage them from the FortiGate and also configure them. So that's, nice built-in feature to have. And then, I mean, AI is, I wouldn't say it's driving everything, right? I mean, companies are starting to extensively use AI for everything these days. It's helping, find threats faster. It's helping to identify and resolve issues quicker. So, Fortinet solutions lean on AI services, but they're not dependent on them. The FortiGuard Labs, that's our obviously threat intelligence service that has AI built into it. So you're also getting that benefit as well of new and upcoming technologies being available within this feature set. All right. Any questions on any of this? I don't see anything in the chat. Okay, next slide. All right, so to kind of little talk about, if you were to go with a Fortinet secure SD-WAN solution, right? How would you deploy this? So, typically you would have an architecture like we kind of showed, but this is what it would really look like, right? You'd have your data center, your cloud, and you could even implement cloud. It doesn't really matter. You can mix and match hardware, VMs. It doesn't really matter. There's not restrictions on that. The one OS concept basically extends across the whole platform. So if you're used to the physical, you'll be able to understand the VM. There's not much difference there. And basically from FortiManager, right, you can use what we have overlay templates, and that'll help you build your entire SD-WAN solution from templates that have already the Fortinet best practices in there. They'll help guide you through setting up your network if you're doing a complete greenfield deployment. This significantly reduces the amount of time it takes for our engineers to actually go out and implement these solutions in the field, as well as lower the amount of expertise required to actually get a deployment going. Obviously, that doesn't mean you don't want to skimp out on your engineering expertise, but it definitely can help out less experienced individuals. So typically you would have the FortiManager, FortiAnalyzer, right, mix and match cloud and on-prem solutions potentially, so that you could have SaaS applications go directly to the cloud. Maybe you have a hub in the cloud, and then maybe you have a hub in the data center for on-prem apps, and then between the branch offices we could use a technology to build dynamic tunnels between them so that they can cut through the communication channels without having to hairpin through a hub and waste those resources there so you can have more efficient data transfer. All right, next slide, please. All right. So, with the FortiAnalyzer and FortiManager, we have, extensive dashboards that you can create. You can monitor, link utilization, applications. You can get, real-time alerts, statistics on, how your whole SD-WAN system is actually functioning at a high level. And then, you can drill down and look at specific sites and see, hey, is this site performing worse than the other one? Is there a commonality on it? All this data available to you in customizable dashboards can help your network team and security team identify and remediate issues before they become larger problems, right? And actually help reduce, outage time and mean time to restoration for any issues that do occur. So this is extensively customizable. You can create pretty much anything you want. There's multiple different categories, and then we can also tie these visibility analytics into our reporting system, which I'll mention here in a second. Next slide, please. All right. So we have all that data from our FortiAnalyzer, FortiManager. What do we do with it? Well, we have a lot of pre-built SD-WAN reports, but there's also a way to go ahead and customize whatever you want, right? If you want specific information, such as maybe you want to report only on a specific, underlay performance, right? You could go ahead and create an SD-WAN report for that, or whatever you want. The world's kind of your oyster here. And this is some examples here that we have in the pictures of some reports, right? So they give you nice graphs. It uses a common language that you can easily program what you want to see in your graphs and create these nice looking reports to provide to management and other, individuals making decisions on, should we upgrade our bandwidth at certain sites? What are our primary tasks on remediation or vulnerabilities, and so on and so forth. So, there's a lot of good features within these management tools that'll really accelerate the single pane of glass idea for your organization. And that's all I had. I think that was the last slide, I believe.
Yeah, great, Nicholas. Thanks so much. This is Phil Moser again. Man, that was a great technical overview. I was actually taking notes while you were talking, so appreciate that. Just by way of wrapping up on the Fortinet side, again, we are at the top of the magic quadrant for firewalls as well as networks. I think after listening to Nicholas, you probably got a good sense in terms of the convergence that we drive between SD-WAN and firewalls. We work hand in glove very, very closely with Granite. That's why we've done this webinar hand in glove with Granite. We probably, like I said before, and I think Larry had mentioned, we probably have the largest deployment of SD-WAN in the country off of a very large federal agency that we did hand in glove with Granite. And at one time, I believe we were rolling out about 100 SD-WAN VMs a day when we were at the height of the deployment. So it shows how easy it is to really roll out SD-WAN with a partner like Granite. One last thing I'll mention, Nicholas kind of alluded to it, but it's really given the flexibility that Fortinet's that the SD-WAN, the secure SD-WAN brings. Some customers start by deploying our FortiGate as a router replacement, and then they will migrate, turn on SD-WAN after they've replaced their router network or upgraded their routers to a FortiGate. But basically, they start out just using the FortiGate for routing. It's got very, very robust routing capabilities. Then customers will turn on the SD-WAN component, be able to access multiple types of WAN transport mechanisms. And then sort of the third phase of that is turning on the security so that you do really have up to layer 7 security at the very edge of the network, perfect for TIC.3.0 applications. Other customers come at it other ways. They'll deploy the FortiGates for security first, and then they'll realize that there's SD-WAN and routing capabilities so that they can converge all those technologies into one platform. Either way, we'd love to talk with you, and I'm sure Granite would as well if you have other questions. We've got a lot of resources available for those of you that are interested, white papers, solution briefs, subject matter experts that we would love to get on a call or come and visit you in person, evaluation licenses, proof of
Looks like he just froze.
Yeah, I
Pretty sure
think
that
we
was
lost
proof
Phil.
of concept was coming out of his mouth. Pretty sure.
okay. Well, there we go.
Oh, we are,
So
there you are.
I was done anyways. So I'm going to wrap up. Thank you so much for everybody for your attention. I'm going to turn it over to David, and I don't know if we have any questions or whether you want to wrap things up.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's anything Q wise. Certainly appreciate everybody's time. Looks like we're going to be giving everybody back a few minutes in their day. But just wanted to, on behalf of Granite, Fortinet Federal, and 4Inc., certainly appreciate everyone today and appreciate our speakers joining us and giving us some great intel. Everybody have a great rest of your day. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your
Great.
time.
Thank you.
Yeah.